everyone, or good morning if you are joining us in another time zone or watching the webinar replay, and welcome to another NDIS Cuppa Questions with Plan Tracker. My name's Mel, and joining me here once again today is our founder and managing director, Elisa James. Elisa, welcome to another session.
Oh, Mel, I am pretty excited. Today we get to unpack a little bit more and deep dive into some of those questions we've been asked this week about the new price guide. Should we mention the very special event at the end?
I think we should, because it'll give everyone a little bit of time to get prepared. So
okay,
why don't
fantastic.
you go ahead?
So we did talk about this last week. We did say that, you know, because we do really celebrate all things price guide, and especially the price guide nerd. So we are looking for our winner today of our special quiz at the end. So at the end, there'll be a fun Kahoots game. If you haven't played before, it's very easy and there'll be some fun questions. And the prize, of course, is at great expense to the Plan Tracker team. Licorice all sorts. Now, the only problem is since last week when we announced this, some of our team have gotten there, and I can assure you there are a few in there, but possibly not full. But it's all right because licorice all sorts are quite popular around here, so we had to raid somebody else's desk, and we've found a full packet. So today, if you are the price guide quiz winner, that baby is coming your way. Mel, back to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And just to dob Elisa in, she actually eats a lot of those licorice all sorts in our office. So
that is true. I do usually know where the stashes are. Yeah.
Always good. All right. So if you would like to participate in our fun Kahoots game later on, all you need is a smartphone. So whatever you have handy, you can download on iOS or Android Kahoots. So it's spelled Kahoots. Justine, I might get you just to pop that spelling in the chat box for everyone. You can download the app, and we'll put the game activation code, if you like, up on the screen when we commence that fun game at the end. Just a little bit of housekeeping while everyone's logging in, getting settled. If you haven't grabbed a cuppa, go and grab one now, nice and quick. If you would like to participate in our chat, or you've got questions during today's session, you can do so in the chat or the Q&A function, which you should find on the bottom of your screen. Or if you're on a mobile device, you'll find the buttons to activate those. We have the lovely Justine joining us from the Plan Tracker team, who'll be in the Q&A and the chat functions today, moderating for us and answering those questions as we go along. If we park your question, it's because we'd like to answer it on air. We do try to answer as many as we can as we go along during the live session. If we do, however, miss any of those out, we will come back to you after today's session. Elisa, I think just while we're getting everyone running there, I can see Justine just popped the link for Kahoots into the chat box. So if you are looking for that and you want to join in, please go right on ahead. As we have mentioned to everyone today, the NDIS price guide came out. So I thought that we might actually jump in and start with some basics, because we've had a lot of questions, including where on earth do I find the new guide? So are you happy if we jump right on in?
Let's go for it. I think you've got some slides.
I do indeed. I'm just going to pop them up on the screen for everyone. And just give me a thumbs up if you can see those on your screen. Nice and easy. Fantastic.
Wonderful. Good to go.
All right. So let's jump into some basics. Well, the big question there, which I asked, which we've actually surprisingly had a lot, and we've seen a lot in the online communities, is where do I find the guide?
Okay. So it's a really good question. The best place, and in fact, the place where it's hosted is on the NDIS website, ndis.gov.au. And Justine's popping the link there into the chat. Under providers and then pricing is where you find it. But when you find it, you'll need to scroll to the bottom, and you'll see that there are actually, it's a bit confusing. It looks like there are different versions. What it is there is the price guide itself, which comes in either a Word format or a PDF format. And there's also what they're now calling the pricing catalog, which is basically the great big list of about, oh gosh, I'm not sure how many we're up to now, 750 or so line items that registered providers and plan managers use when we're claiming. Of course, if you're self-managing, you only need to concern yourself with those top level budgets. But if you're just interested, or, you know, looking at ways to fall asleep at night, then reading the catalogue is kind of a good one for that. So lots of detail there, but it is a big, big list of just pricing and codes.
It definitely is, and we're not insinuating that it sends you to sleep by any means. So, the other question that we're getting a lot, Elisa, is LACs, and how do I find out who my LAC is if I've potentially lost their contact details, or if I've moved, or if they've moved on?
Mm.
Who do I go about asking that kind of question to? Because I know we see it a lot and we get asked it a lot. So is there a kind of a main resource where we can go for that?
Yeah, exactly. So LACs, or local area coordinators, they're the person who works for a community partner of the NDIS. And the NDIS has planners. They're the people that write the plans. But the NDIS, if you like, partners with community partners like Social Futures, Uniting, and others across the country. So I think we're just about to post the LAC link in there. In some states right now, there have been quite a lot of changes. So new organisations have taken over those contracts. So you'll be able to find if that's changed for you by following this link. So it's again on the government, on the NDIS website. And if you Google LAC in there, or you search LAC in there, you should find it. But the link has also just gone into the chat.
Perfect. And as always, we'll include all of these links that we're referencing on the replay page for you to make it nice and easy to find where to go. And they'll, of course, link you straight across to the NDIS website. All right, next up, Elisa, plan review. So we're getting a lot of questions around planning for plan review now, especially with the new price guide and support catalogue, which started on July 1st, just in case we missed that detail earlier, or just to reinforce it. So with this, we're getting questions around what to ask for, and specifically it tends to be, and in my experience, this is why it has been, it's in related to the shifts with regards to supports and services that are now quote required or are now required to be a stated support. So do you just want to comment on what some of those are in terms of that?
Yeah, so look, I guess and again, it's really important to remember that everybody's situation is unique. You know, there's not one big cookie cutter approach that works. And, you know, you may compare, you know, we often hear parents comparing their child to somebody else's child, and they say, but we look the same and we've got these completely different plans. That genuinely can happen. But there may be things that you're not aware of that are relevant for that person that may not be relevant for either your situation or your child's situation. So what I would suggest, first of all, when you're looking at preparing for review and thinking things through, it's all about looking at those areas that bridge the gap between disability and an ordinary life. They're the things the NDIS is going to fund. So a couple of key price guide changes that are really important to be aware of, that will impact, especially for, well, actually probably for everybody, but predominantly for younger people. So in core before, there used to be quite a nice item code that allowed you to engage more readily in groups where there was also the cost of the activity involved. So art class, things like that. It was like a social community participation type item to help you engage in a group activity where it's not about just being supported by the worker, but by being supported as part of that full activity and that full activity cost. That line item, unfortunately, has gone from core, which means that it's a lot, it just makes it a little bit more tricky when looking at where do some of the supports you might like to engage with fit. One of the budgets we love is improved social and community participation. If you look down on the kind of the order of list, it's one of those capacity building budgets. We often call it 09 just because it's the 9th in the list, and all of its item codes start with 09. And in there is quite a nice, really that budget is about engaging with your community, but it also says very clearly in the price guide that you are able to cover the cost of activities. So art classes, horse riding, joining a sporting club, those kinds of things are covered and can be covered depending again on your plan goals and on where your funding is sitting, but usually much better covered from those budgets. So definitely worth keeping that in mind as you look for it to go to, if you are headed for a review. Few new items, or a few items that have been marked as what we call quotable or stated items that have changed. And those specifically are meal preparation and delivery, linen, so sending your washing out to an external company to do having that brought back in, and also specialised driving lessons. Now, each of those in the past has been marked, usually in the price guide, as requiring a quote, but they've often been able to be claimed without any real issue, and it's been a bit grey. The NDIA have made that a lot clearer, and so now the process, if you'd like to engage in any of those 3 types of supports, is to make sure that at your review you present a quote so that you can have specific approval and kind of like an unlocking, if you like, of that line item so that it can be claimed. Again, I'm referring here for agency managed or plan managed budgets, and self-managed. That's you still should raise those things as you go through at your review meeting.
Fantastic. All right. And with regards to the final point that we've popped up here on the slide, I know we've had feedback from the community, phone calls coming in from your LAC or from your local area coordinator, as Elisa kindly expanded on earlier there. When those phone calls come in, if they're not a scheduled call, so if you weren't planning to have your plan review today and they're giving you a call and it's 2 o'clock on a Tuesday and you're wondering, okay, we're just going to have a casual chat, or is this a plan review? Elisa, are we well within our rights to ask if this is a plan review call?
Look, I think it's really important, Mel. It's one of those, the LACs, part of their role is to support participants to engage with community and use their plans. Now, experience across the country has really been fairly limited in that actually happening from what we've seen. But what you will kind of get usually is sometime throughout the plan, you'll get a phone call that just is a bit of a check-in and see how you're going. It can feel a little tick a box depending on how it's done. But just what we have noticed is, especially in this COVID season, where many plan review meetings are being done over the phone, we've had a number of situations where people have taken a phone call thinking it's just one of those check-in calls and not realizing it's a plan review call, and suddenly new plan turns up. So if you are coming towards, within the last 3 months, I would be and you receive a call from your LAC. First of all, do make sure it is actually your LAC. There are people out there who are unscrupulous, who would try and get information out of people or cause harm. So do double check to make sure that this is a legitimate call from your LAC, and you're quite within your rights to take a phone number and make sure that you call back, or you've got a number you can call back on, that type of thing. But do just ask. Just say, hey, if they say, can we just have a chat about what's working and what you need in your next plan? I'd have a few alarm bells going, and just make sure you ask up front, is this my plan review meeting? Because you may, I would hope, want to be prepared and have thought through what some of those goals might be, what's worked in the old plan, what you might need for the future. Things may have changed. So yeah, good advice, Mel. Not just keep your eyes open for that one. Sure, it's not an intentional strategy, but it certainly has caught out a few people.
It definitely has. And I just want to correct a bit of wording we used earlier. Justine has kindly pointed this out to me. We said improve social and community, and we intended it to be increased social and community participation for that budget name.
Justine, thank you.
That happens, and that's the joy of live events. There's lots of different wording, and even for individuals who work in this space or those who are participants on the scheme, it can be very confusing for us all. So we apologise for that little slip up there. Elisa, next
Mel,
up,
there's quite a good list. We've got quite a good little poster on our website, don't we? Which actually does need an update, I realised just the other day. For those that know, the list of the budget names in your PDF or paper copy of your plan, they actually use completely different names on the portal. So if you're having trouble matching up those two names, then on our website under resources, what is it called? I think it's under blogs. We will put a link. We have a handy little sheet that gives you those two names side by side. So if you're a provider or a support coordinator, it's quite handy to stick on the wall, or to give to participants as well. You can download and print.
Fantastic. And I
but
think
we will need to make an update, won't we?
And update it this afternoon before we pop it on the replay page for you all. So you'll find that on the replay page there.
Only because there's a new name.
There is a new name. There is. So we've had that shift to include the social social, economic, and community participation under core. So if you did miss that update, you can catch last week's webinar. On Wednesday, the 1st of July, we decided to do a live webinar unpacking the price guide. If you haven't seen that yet, it is available on our replay pages. I'll include that link when we send around the replay for this session as well, just in case you have missed out or you want to revisit that content. It's a fantastic unpacking of all the kind of nitty-gritty changes and just a real overview of this new guide. And then today, as we mentioned, we're getting into more of the questions that are coming up. So next up on the list, Elisa, is flexibility. So we've had this question a lot, and a lot of us were hanging out for this, what we want to, I don't want to say promised, but this kind of expected flexibility that we saw coming.
Announced? Should we say announced?
Announced. We'll say announced. I think we'll go with that. So I'm going to ask the question on behalf of everyone. Are the core and capacity building budgets flexible in the new price guide?
Unfortunately not. So for those who are keen watchers of this space, you may remember back in February, I think it was, that Minister Robert announced there would be increased flexibility for use of your plans around basically being able to move funding in the same way that core is flexible, and we can move funding between the 4 core groups or budget areas. There was hope that we would also be able to do that across a number of capacity building budgets. I think what's happened here is that the NDIS business system, the system we all have to log into and make claims from, whether you're self-plan or agency managing your budgets, just couldn't cope. That's my kind of understanding from word on the street. Just couldn't actually pull it off in its current format, and would have taken quite a lot of work to get there. Again, there's nothing in writing on that, and the agency's being very quiet on it. What we can see, though, is that some of that flexibility that was added in during COVID is still there. So, for example, 3 additional support coordination items are still sitting in core. So there's, if you like, that's a slight way of having a little bit more flexibility. The ability to claim assistive tech where it's that low cost, low risk, level 1, level 2, under $1,500, unless it's a device, and that's a whole nother conversation. At under $750, one only, let's not go there at the moment. But that is also still remaining in the improved daily living budget, or CB daily activities, or the therapy budget, if you want to call it that. So there is some by increasing the number of line items, there's been some slight increase in flexibility, but still a bit tricky.
Fantastic. All right. So off the back of that, the other popular question that we always tend to get is, if I'm running out of funding in, say, my capacity building budget, so if we take our therapy budget 15, whatever we'd like to call it, it has many names. If I'm running low on funding there, can I top it up from my core?
So one of the things that that the agency announced at the start of this COVID season was that, understanding that people do need a bit more flexibility, especially in this season. You may not be able to get providers under certain budgets. Your needs may change or alter just because of COVID. So what they have said is that you can call the agency and they will assist you to move funding from one budget to another. There's a few logistical steps around that. So if you are using a plan manager or using us, just give us a call first, because we need to release some funding in one space so that it can be moved by the agency, and then we need to reallocate it back into the budget you'd like it to go from. One word of warning though, and we've been bitten a couple of times this week on this one, once a plan is inactive, that can no longer happen. So it's just a lot more tedious to try and claim some of those things you might have wanted to claim at that point. So if you do want to do it while your plan is active.
Fantastic. And just for clarity for everyone, what does it mean if a plan's active or inactive?
So really, active plans are current. In other words, it's the start date has happened. I'm using my plan. The end date hasn't come yet. But an inactive plan is any plan that's ended before today. So if your plan ended last week, that old plan we would say is an inactive plan.
Fantastic. I think it's really good to have that clarity. As we always say, there's plenty of terms
lots of jargon.
There's lots of jargon. I sometimes wish there was a list, and then I remember how much we don't like lists. So, alrighty. The next question we're getting in terms of this flexibility is there's been some shifts. I know we're going to talk a lot more about group support shortly, but in terms of transitioning to the new claiming method, so if you're one of the services or support providers that have been affected by these changes, a lot of participants are actually asking, are my providers automatically going to change to charging under these, or do they have time to transition over?
So let's leave groups for just a moment, because I know we're going to jump into that one and it's a bigger piece. But every time there's a new price guide, certainly these big annual 1st of July ones, there's often a bit of juggling around with actual line item numbers and what's there and what isn't there. Our experience has been over the last few years that you can still claim using some of those older or decommissioned line item numbers. You can still use those to claim from. Obviously, price guide limits and all of those things will still apply, but yes, don't worry about that. Generally, even we've seen it even as far back as 2 or 3 years. Some of those codes are often are still being used to claim against. So there's no rush there.
Fantastic. All right. So just for full clarity here, just because I don't see the line item I was charging under previously doesn't mean it's technically not there. It's just a little bit invisible in the new support catalogue, shall we say?
That's right. And if you've already got a service, if you're a provider and you've already got a service agreement in place using those line items that may now no longer exist, and you're happy to keep providing service at the rate that you were against that line item, then, and look, in general, because let's face it, nobody can quite say exactly what will happen at the NDIS end, but our experience has been that those invoices and those claims would continue to go through without any real issue.
Fantastic. Alrighty. Well, without further ado, I think we might jump into that lovely group support topic, because I know we've got a lot to unpack there together. Now, I just want to start with the most popular one we've had, which is why it's at the top here. If I'm a provider, can I continue to charge under, or continue to use the 2019-2020 prices, and for how long, if I can?
Okay, so let's go even one step higher. So group supports is any time really that you are engaging with, if you are a participant, if there's more than one participant and one provider. So for example, 3 people doing some sort of activity with a support worker, or a psychologist running a 3-person psychology group. They're examples of group supports. And so what happened is that the agency, without any real announcement to anybody, just suddenly sprung in on the 24th of June into the first release of the price guide that there would no longer be ratio pricing. In the old price guide up to the end of last financial year, so last week, that went very fast, didn't it? Up to the end of there was what we call ratio pricing. So if you're a provider, you might have been providing support, exercise physiology to a group of 3 people, and so you would say, I will charge you at the 1 to 3 rate, for example, or support work 1 to 3 rate, and that rate was higher than the value of 1 hour of support divided by 3. So the agency, for example, let's use our classic support worker rate under the old scheme at about $52, because I'm not going to be too good at my math this afternoon. $52, if you were providing 1 to 2 support, the rate per person is going to be $32 or $33 or somewhere there. So it means that the support worker is receiving, say, $66 for providing support for 2 people in that 1 hour. The agency said, you know what, we're just going to do away with that, and we're just going to make it so that if the hourly rate is $52 and you are providing support to 2 people, then you just charge each half the price, or for 3 people, a third of the price. Well, the problem with that is that that's a big change of business process and business model for many of our providers who rely on their groups to help cover some of those extra costs that happen when you're working with groups of people. And so it meant in some situations up to a 30% decrease in revenue. So because there was no announcement and no time for the sector to respond, the agency did a walk back. And basically what they've said is, look, we are going to move to this new model of take the price and divide to whatever ratio you're offering. However, we will allow you to, as a provider, to continue to provide group supports at the 1920, so last financial year, 1920 prices. That's pre-COVID, so without that extra 10%, just to add a bit more complexity there. We'll let you keep providing at that price for up to another year. But there's a couple of rules. So as you'll see on the slide there, it's a one-way street. So once you change, and first of all, you have to, as a provider, choose which way you're going to go. Will you stick with the old system or will you move to the new arrangement? If you stick with the old system, that's fine. That all your pricing needs to be done that way. They don't want you to be doing some for some participants and some way for others. If you move to the new system, then basically that's it. That's your choice, but you can't move back. So once you make the move, you need to continue to price or to bill at using the new approach. So if you as a participant see that your pricing is looking a little different or your invoicing is looking a little bit different to usual, just talk to your provider and have a chat. If providers are confused, you're welcome to give us a call and we'll help if we can, or give the agency a call and talk it through with the 1-800 people. So the only other thing on there to mention is that the old pricing, it's assumed contains funding for some of those non-face-to-face supports that weren't separately chargeable under the old pricing guide. So you know, if you are doing any report writing or any investigation and research on behalf of participants, you won't be able to charge that non-face-to-face time in addition, because it's considered included in that older pricing.
Fantastic. All right. I do have one question for you that's just sprung to mind, and I'm sure it will actually impact a few providers. In terms of deciding between whether we continue with the old pricing model or move into the new one, can I choose between the two if I have existing service agreements and I choose to go the new way only for new participants? Can I then have a mix or still a no?
According to the price guide, no. They want you as a provider to basically choose which way you will go.
Pick your team.
So pick your team, stick
Yep.
to your team. How enforceable that is, whether it would be, you know, who knows? Like, let's talk, you know, logistically, that becomes a business decision, but that's what the price guide says.
Yeah, and look, I'm sure whoever's doing your accounts processing would love if you can pick one team or the other.
That's right. Exactly. It will make life easier.
Yeah, definitely would. Alrighty. In the spirit of non-face-to-face supports, as we've just ended off with there, I thought we'd have a chat about these kind of behind the scenes and what they actually are. So for participants who potentially haven't experienced this before, or for providers who haven't had the ability previously to charge under them, what can be claimed? What are some examples of what we can claim as a non-face-to-face support?
So the importance here is that these are genuine supports for the individual. It's not just an administrative cost shared over a number of people. They do have to be supports delivered specifically for that individual. We're talking about things like report writing or writing a letter, or that if you need to liaise with some of the other team members perhaps who are helping, and support providers who are helping work with that participant. Research. So if you are helping somebody look for some other supports or connect better into, you know, some social spaces, for example, all of those things would be legitimate use of your time on behalf of the participant. Of course, the types of things you can't charge for are your own business admin costs. So your time to do your invoicing on your billing, time to update your accounts, time to check your bank recs, or writing up your service agreements, or popping out to visit a person before you've you've kind of gotten to the point of providing service. So those general admin things are not chargeable, but anything that is person specific, where you are working on their behalf behind the scenes, generally is chargeable. Again, communication. You know, don't surprise your, if you're a provider, don't surprise your participant with an invoice for lots of hours of emails and phone calls if they're not expecting it. Have the conversation up front. You'll save everybody a lot of grief.
Absolutely read my mind there. I was going to say communication is key, because we always come back to that point, and I'm sorry if anyone thinks that we harp on about it, but having this communication as a two-way street between providers and participants, or if you have a plan manager, potentially a three-way street there, it's really helpful because it nuts out any issues before they even arise. And the amount of admin time that's going to save you if you're a provider, and the amount of stress it saves you if you're a participant, is just tenfold. So it is a fantastic way to go about things, is just to have that conversation. Pop them an email, pick up the phone and have a chat. It's nice and easy to do. Most providers, I'd say in my experience, are happy to have that conversation. So yeah, we always advocate for that. And I just want to preface, this is not an exhaustive list of what you can and can't claim. We're by no means saying that is everything. If you want to go and have a look at that stuff, it's on the NDIS website. So jump across and you'll find that sort of information there. But yeah, Elisa, the next thing I thought we might do is, I couldn't decide on what category to pop everything under. So I decided we'd do a mashup of all the fun questions and the community buzz. So if you don't mind, we're going to play switcheroo on a couple of topics here. And firstly, I'd like to say we stand corrected. If you watched last week's, or you go and watch the replay of our NDIS Price Guide special event webinar, you'll notice that we were speculating about the annual price review being phased out. And Justine kindly has picked up that it is now scheduled for anywhere between July and December 2021. So what it looks like is, Elisa, I think they're skipping a year. Is that what it sounds like?
That's what it sounds like. So, which is actually a really great idea. You know, did we need another price review this year? Well, I think plan managers would definitely say yes. We would definitely like to see a price review done on plan management and how that works. But certainly the general annual price review will not be this year, which is, as we guessed. We thought it may have been phased out permanently, but it'll be back again next year. So 18 months, there you go.
Fantastic. Alrighty. Now the next one on my little mashup, going to jump topics here, is support coordination. So for anyone, particularly for our support coordinators, if you're watching this live event or the replay, if your support coordination budget is stated support or plan managed, for instance, Elisa, the question we've been having kind of around this is with regards to pricing indexation. So that is the adjustment to meet the new price guide rates in a participant's plan. What date does that come into effect for, say, a plan manager? When can we update a participant's funding on the portal?
So the NDIS has raised the prices that providers are able to claim. And as a result, we would also want them to, and they will, increase the funding in each person's plan by the same sort of CPI amount, Consumer Price Index. And that's happening this weekend on the 11th, so on Saturday. Sometime they'll take the system offline and the NDIA will go through and make all of that funding, apply that funding to each person's plan. Now, if you are self-managed, sometimes we've found that that takes them a bit longer. It might happen on the 11th. We haven't heard anything to the contrary yet, but in the past it has can take a little bit longer. For plan managed, you won't see the amount appear in your service booking for your plan management service booking. What we need to do is physically go into every single person's booking and manually increase row by row. And because the NDIA doesn't tell us how much it's going up by, other than us guessing a percentage, we have to take a guess at every row and try to save each time. So there are a few team members not looking forward to that, I have to say, but that's okay. But where it really impacts if you are a support coordinator. Support coordination is generally provided in plans as a stated item. So getting really into the nuts and bolts of price guides and service bookings right now. So what that means is, on the portal, when a service booking is made, and the service booking simply is a booking on the portal that secures that funding if as plan managers, we secure that funding on behalf of participants ready to draw down on. And so what happens with a stated booking is that instead of just saying, hey, from social, economic and community participation, we secure X $1,000. When it's stated, we have to say which line it's for, and we need to say the price per unit and how many units. So we might say 15 hours times I can't remember what the new support coordination rate is, $98 and change. Or let's say 10 times $98 and change. Therefore, the booking is for that $980 or so. Now, you are, as a support coordinator, within your rights to charge the new price from the increased price for support coordination from the 1st of July. However, because those bookings won't have been updated and the pricing hasn't yet been applied, plan managers are not going to be able to process your increased price invoice successfully until sometime next week, and until they've manually gone in, modified all of those bookings and reset them up. So just a little admin joy from the NDIS on that one. So you may like to forego the couple of dollars in order to make your invoices, or help your invoices get processed more quickly over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, so it's just that kind of first month. And just for clarity, that date that Elisa's referring to there is next week. It's because, as we said, July 11th is when the indexation will take place by the agency. And I just thought I might flag for everyone, I'm not sure at the moment, Elisa, and please advise if you are, with that update and them taking plans offline, MyGov Access, are we going to have a little bit of a can't get in the portal for a few hours, I'm guessing?
Yeah, that's usually what's said. Somebody's probably had a look today. It's possibly even announced in both the provider portal and the My Participant portal. If not, it'll be up there in the next couple of days saying what time frame that is for you.
Fantastic. All right. And we've got some questions coming in, which I'm just going to throw across to one whilst we're on the support coordination topic. So this is from an anonymous attendee. So whoever you are, thank you for asking. Do we suspect the support coordination's bookings will be increased automatically, or automagically, as we like to say? I'm guessing you were going to shake your head there.
Yeah. In fact, stated items are one of the big reasons why the NDIA no longer, as they did a couple of years ago, automatically, or automagically as we like to say at Plan Tracker, update all bookings. When they've tried in the past to do a mass update to all bookings, not all the stated ones, but the stated ones cause a lot of tech headache. And so that's why last year the agency went, you know what? That's fine, we'll just let everybody else deal with it, for which we're not very grateful, I have to say. So no, sorry, it won't be an automatic thing. It will need to be done. If it's a plan managed participant, it will need to be done by the plan manager, or if you've got your own bookings and it's an agency managed situation, you'll need to go in and modify yourself, which will mean cancelling the old booking and adding a new booking.
Fantastic. All right. And the other question we're getting, which I'm just going to stem off the back of that one, which is in regards to the price indexation. This is again anonymous attendee. Will the index include things like parking, kilometres, tolls, etc., or just the hourly rates?
I'm suspicious it's just going to be literally a percentage increase. So look, it's hard to tell. My understanding is it's simply a percentage increase that's applied across each budget. Again, at any time, if you are worried that your funding isn't going to be sufficient, then we would encourage you to reach out to your LAC, request a plan review. Don't leave it till you've run out of funding. Do some of that prep work and work out, have I got enough to get me through? Am I going to run short?
Fantastic. And thank you to whomever asked that question. I think that was a great answer. And of course, watch this space. We will keep you updated if we hear otherwise. That's just our read on the situation at the moment. What I'd love to talk about next, Elisa, and I kind of promised you We weren't going to go there, but here we go again.
Mel,
We're going there.
you told me we weren't going to do transport. How did you guys sneak this slide in?
I did. I popped it in
All
last
right.
minute.
All right.
All right. So the big question we're getting from providers is around calculating mileage. So how do I calculate mileage as a provider for group supports? I'm going to let you do the ratios here so that I don't
Actually
mess you
pretty
back.
easy. It's really not that hard. So if you are charging kilometers, parking tolls, road tolls, all those sorts of things, parking fees, get all my parking words mixed around, then you simply divide those costs by the number of participants. So just share them evenly across the participants. The price guide has some great examples on that. So if you're not sure, go and check the price guide and have a read through some of those examples. But yeah, that one's not too hard.
Easy. And just for clarity there, parking fines, still a no?
Still a no, as are speeding fines.
As are speeding. Good to call out. I missed that one. Alrighty. The other transport question that we've continued to have quite a lot here is, and this one actually came from a participant in conversation with their local area coordinator. So as a participant, can I use my participant transport funding for public transport?
And I think if I read some notes somewhere that the LAC decided that no, you could possibly not ever use your transport funding for
Yes, you read
transport.
correctly. That is what they were told.
Oh, it's a known issue amongst senior management at the agency that actually having a consistent answer and well-trained workforce is really tricky. So when you get those answers that you go, yeah, that doesn't really make sense, it probably doesn't make sense. And it's always good to check it with some other sources. So yes, of course, your transport budget, which is the second budget in core, is there to help you if you need to make alternative transport arrangements due to disability. So, public transport, Uber, taxis, rideshare, that kind of thing. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Alrighty. I think we might leave transport there at the caution area of exhausting everyone's attention span on always talking about cars and public transport and travel, because we love that one too.
I was waiting to see what sort of car image you would come up with.
Well, I thought I would do something different this week. So
okay.
I'll save a cute car for everyone for next time I manage to slip that in when I promise Elisa that I won't. So
no transport next time.
All right. We'll see. Watch this space. I'm not promising. Alrighty. The other question that we've been having is around establishment fees. So in terms of a provider charging an establishment fee, I thought we might just quickly recap what counts as an establishment fee.
So an establishment fee is something out of core, usually by core support providers, where they are providing you with at least 20 hours of support over at least the next 3 consecutive months. You need to have a service agreement with your provider in order to have them charge this fee. And look, it's quite a useful fee because it means they can spend a bit of time actually really helping put together a great support plan for you, so that they can take the time to plan out your supports, plan out and help you to unpack your plan and know how you can best use that. So it's a fee that should be charged only once by that provider to a participant. So that's not per plan, that's per participant. So once in that lifetime relationship between provider and participant, it can be charged. Again, with all of the caveats that we just mentioned a moment ago. But you could be charged it. The difference with this new price guide is that previously it was generally a stated support and often agency managed, which meant it was limited to registered providers only. Not always, but quite often. And now that it seems to have been made a lot more flexible, so that you could effectively choose to, as a participant, to take up that establishment service from a number of providers if you wanted to.
All right. So next question on establishment fees, and I think I already know the answer to this one, but I'll ask it anyway. As a provider, can I charge an establishment fee to an existing client?
So the idea is that it's for a new a client who is, or a customer who is new to you, if you are a provider. So it's opportunity for you to get to know a new customer. So know if there is somebody you've already been providing service to, then that's kind of outside the scope of this particular line item.
Fantastic. All right. So no retrospective charging there for existing customers, as we like to say, who are participants already with you. All right. In the spirit of mashing things up, I'm going to jump topics again. And we want to talk about next accessing therapy supports under core. So we get this question quite a bit. So I've got one here that I'm just going to read out for you, Elisa. So I'm wondering about the use of therapy line items under core. When can these be used and what approval do I need to seek to use them? So I think with that question in mind, we might talk a bit about what actually can I access in terms of therapy supports, because I know there is specific health conditions, if you like, I use that word very broadly, that you can access under core. Do you want to expand on that a little?
Yeah, so we saw these line items added in the last financial year. And really the goal of them was to address those disability-related health needs. So as we know, most therapy sits under Budget 15, also known as Improved Daily Living or CB Daily Activities. But for a number of people who had quite large core budgets, but possibly quite small improved therapy, that idea of it being capacity building and improvement, for some people they need therapy that is just ongoing as a result of disability. So it's outside your normal health one-off type event. So it's not like I sprained my ankle and I need some physio treatment for a while on my sprained ankle. It's permanent ongoing treatment and therapy required because of disability. So the reality is that it's getting advice from your therapist is probably the best around that. It's one of those what is health, what is disability type questions. It's a bit of a grey area, but the good thing is if you do have plenty of funding in core and you need that ongoing therapy to maintain mobility or for whatever it may be, then that's really a good spot to be claiming that from.
It definitely is. And what I've just done is I've just popped a link to the NDIS website with a bit more information around that. If you're wanting clarity around what specific conditions are included under this core therapy, go and have a read on the website. I know we could talk about it for quite some time, but we've got a couple more questions to get through, and I'm just conscious of
and we need
timing
to get
here.
to Cahoots.
We do need to get to Cahoots very quickly. So
okay.
We've got one that's come through from Karen. So Karen, thank you so much for reaching out with this. I did just park this, and I think Justine may have already briefly answered you in the chat box. But Elisa, Karen has asked, with regards to the topic of our CB budgets being topped up from core, is it possible for agency and self-managed participants to do this? I'm just going to expand your question a little there, Karen.
My understanding is yes. The challenge, I guess, with agency is that in order to move funding from one service booking to another, it has to be released. So let me give you an example. So if we as plan managers, and the same is true for agency, but as we as plan managers had secured, say, $5,000 in your daily activities, core daily activities, and you wanted to move 3,000 of that to therapy, we would have to go into the service booking, release the $3,000, so we'd reduce our booking down to $2,000. You'd call the agency and say, hey, can you move my money? They would move it. We would jump in, go into the therapy budget, and we would say, top it up by $3,000, which is logistically quite painful. So far, we've only had the agency lose one person's money on the way through. But mostly we've found it works. The same thing is true for your, even if you are agency managed or your plan is agency managed, it just might mean that you need to talk to each provider because you might have more than one provider with service bookings against the budget that you want to release from. And you'd need to get those monies released. Self-management, I believe it's a phone call and pretty straightforward.
Nice and easy. Alrighty. And I've just got one final reminder for everyone. Justine, thank you so much because you've been answering all of these questions just around price guide rates changing and those sorts of things. Just a reminder for all of our providers out there, as well as our participants, the COVID loading or the COVID 10% loading, that was removed on July 1st, and those price guide rates were reverted back to the March 25 price guide for the 2019-2020 period. So that's anything up until June 30. Without giving you any extra dates there, the COVID loading is no longer, is where I'm just going to leave that one. Elisa, do you want to add anything to that before we jump into Play Cahoots?
I'm not actually supposed to be reading the chat because I get
could
lost.
See that.
But I did just read it very quickly, Mel, and I promise I wasn't reading before. Karen, your question there, CB funding being topped up from core, have a planner said, no, you can't do it as it would trigger a review. Okay, so first of all, I would just ask you, was it really an actual planner, or was it the 1-800 person, or was it the LAC? They're different roles and they often have different understanding, or an actual NDA planner. Okay. They may not know. I'm not trying to be funny. They just may not know that it's a thing. The number of people that we talk to in all different parts of the agency who just don't have some knowledge about different things that are in place or not in place is quite large, and it never surprises me at different levels. So I would, this is one that is a 1-800 phone call. To get it to happen. So I would go that way and just not worry about the planner at this point and just see what happens. Always, yeah. One of those spaces. There's never quite a guarantee, is there?
There never is, and I think that's one of the joys of being part of this community, Elisa, is that whilst there is no guarantees, we're all learning together, and something we're passionate about at Plan Tracker is obviously helping to keep everyone on top of things. Just going to pop our contact details up here. As always, you can get in touch with us if you do have any questions, or if you are looking for a plan manager or a self-management app. Justine, can I invite you over from our chat box to share our lovely Cahoots game with everyone? So for anyone, if you haven't already, just quickly download the Cahoots app on your phone. We're going to be putting up the code to play in just a moment. All right, so if you're on your phone app, what you need to do is enter the game pin. So that is the number that you're seeing appearing on your screen. I will read it out a couple of times. So the game pin is 9656143. So that number again is 9656143. We're going to give everyone a couple of minutes just
Justine,
to join
don't
us
click
in.
start.
I can see we've got
You're
Hobart joining us. We've got an L. Justine's getting a little bit keen. So you can pop up whatever name you'd like to call yourself here. What we will do is we'll engage with our lovely winner for that awesome bag of licorice all sorts.
I know,
no one
and
ate them.
there is we will send the unopened packet.
Yes, you will get a brand new packet of lovely licorice all sorts, completely unopened from our team. But we thought this would be a fun way to go through. And it's also something good that you can play with your team afterwards. So if you're watching the replay, obviously you won't be in the Cahoots Live, but you can pinch these questions and have a fun quiz with the team for a novelty prize, as we like to say. So I think that's always good to do. So if you're ready, let's jump in. Alrighty. So we're starting in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so true or false? Low-cost AT can be claimed from the improved daily living budget or budget 15. So blue is true, red is false. Oh, I think we've got one more to answer here. Alrighty, so 9 of you got that right. It is indeed true. All right, Justine, next question. Let's have a look. So Hobart, you are in the lead with 940.
Must have been a quick answer, that one.
Can providers charge non-face-to-face time if they're using the 2019-2020 group pricing? So red is yes, blue is no. All right, we've got 6 who've answered no, and you are indeed correct. If you're using the old price guide, you cannot charge for non-face-to-face time. All right, Justine, let's have a look. Wow, Hobart, you're right ahead and closely followed by Bella there.
Right
Next
at the top.
quiz question. So it's a multi-select. The following registration groups can claim an establishment fee And there may be more than one answer, as we said. So red is daily personal activities, blue is specialised supported employment, yellow for specialised support coordination, and green for therapeutic support. So you may answer with more than one. All right. So it is indeed our daily personal activities and specialised supported employment. That one always tongue twists me. Let's have a look who's on our leaderboard now. All right, Christine is bringing
big
it up
moves.
there.
Oh, you're
True
too
or
quick on our
false is the next
leaderboard.
one. Provider travel non-labour costs are price capped by the NDIS. Blue is true, red is false.
The non-labour costs, there are things like, what is that, Mel, do you think, provider travel? Is that things like mileage and parking?
Ooh, I would be thinking so.
Mm.
All right, and our answer is indeed false. So we've got 3 correct answers there. I think that one was a little tricky for our audience members participating. Justine, let's take a look at that leaderboard now. Oh, No Drama Llama is bringing it up. All right.
Hobart still on the board, but you're going to have to bump it up.
So next is a quiz question. Home modifications and SDA are budget category, and are they red for budget category 5, blue for budget 6, yellow for budget 7, or green for budget 8? I'm going to be fully honest and say I don't know the answer to this one. I get stumped every time. All right. So there we go. It is number 6. So we've got 5 correct answers there. All righty. Let's have a look. Wow, seeing the shift there. So No Drama Llama still bringing out the lead. Providers of group supports have been scratching their heads for the last month. Blue is true, red is false. I feel like that's one of the trick questions that you had. It's a bit like,
group support people, we're feeling your pain.
Oh, all righty. Let's have
all
a
right,
look.
Slow on the leaderboard this time, Justine. Yes, you can click. Yeah, don't click next straight away. All right.
All right.
Wow.
So we've got No Drama Llama, Christine and Brooke bringing out the first 3 podium positions.
Nice. Heather's on the board.
Heather is on there. Okay, so quiz. House cleaners and gardeners can charge for provider travel. So yes, sirree, Bob is red, or no way, Nora for blue. Justine, I'm loving your creative answers in here. Having a little bit of fun there.
Now, we didn't even cover this today, so this will be good to see how many
I think we talked about this last week, potentially. Yep. All right, so 7 of you were listening keenly last week. You can indeed charge provider travel, house cleaners and gardeners. All right, Justine, let's take a look at that scoreboard. Wow, okay.
Oh, there we go. Bella's
we're still hanging in tight there. Christine and No Drama Llama. Nice.
Neck and neck.
Okay, so this is a multi-select, so select more than one answer if you feel the need. Examples of non-face-to-face supports include red, creating service agreements, blue for invoicing, yellow for researching, and green for report writing. We definitely went through both of these, of what you can claim for and what you can't claim for with non-face-to-face. So this one may stump a few of us, but let's have a look. All righty. So if you answered
solid answers.
And report writing. My word, I'm getting tongue twisted. There we go. All right. Let us have a look.
Oh, no change in the leaderboard. No Drama Llama.
Nice.
You've got
We've
2
got
questions
3 players on an answer streak, though, getting 3 in a row right. So congrats if you are one of those 3. All right, Justine, let's jump along. Second last question. This is quiz. Psychosocial recovery coaches are found in which budget category?
Red wow. This is like those quizzes at school, isn't it? Where they didn't teach you, but they've asked you the question.
They did indeed. Blue for assistance with social, economic and community participation, yellow for capacity building, improved living arrangements, and green for capacity building support coordination. So, all right, let's have a look. It is indeed
good job, team.
Capacity building support coordination. So if you answer green, you are correct. All right, let's have a look at the leaderboard, Justine. We'll wait here for just a second. We've got one more question. All righty, let us have a look. So we've got No Drama Llama in the lead. Christine, you're coming in a close second there at the moment. And Heather is clearly on a rise there. All right. And we can see Brooke and Bella, you're very close together there as well. So Still anyone's game. Let's have a look at the last question. Are we ready? Okay, true or false? This is a bonus question. Elisa loves chatting about travel and transport. Blue for true, red for false. All right, everyone's very quick on this one. There we go. Doesn't love it, but she doesn't blush to chatting about it.
It is important. I do value its importance, but yep.
It definitely is. Heather, all right, Heather in third place. Congratulations. Woo. Christine bringing in second.
Oh, but a winner.
Let's have a look.
Price
No Drama
Guide
Llama.
Nerd. Woohoo!
Definitely getting a Price Guide Nerd Awards. And we've got our runners up for today, who Brooke and Marge. You've jumped on in 5th position there. Congratulations to everyone. We hope that was a little bit of fun. And to No Drama Llama, because that's a very nondescript name, if you just want to reach out to Justine in the chat box and let us know your email address, we will be in touch with you.
These bad boys are coming your way. Well done. Congratulations. And is that our first ever Price Guide Kahoot?
I think it is. I think that was a little bit of fun. So I think we might do that more than once and have a little bit of fun with everyone. All right. Well, as always, we really appreciate, Elisa, you taking the time to join us here today. Is there anything you'd like to leave everyone with apart from a big smile after that little bit of fun?
I hope that's been useful for you. You know, as always, we're all in this together, figuring it out as we go along. We appreciate your feedback, appreciate just your comments and your on how you're finding our sessions and information. And again, if you've got questions you'd like to ask, please let us know. We tend to cover a lot of all those odd left field questions. We're happy to have a go at as well. So have a great week. And I think we're back in a few weeks' time, Mel.
We will indeed be back in a couple of weeks' time. And I just want to say congratulations. No Drama Llama is Emma. So congrats, Emma. We will get that prize out to you. We hope you all enjoyed. As always, if you are looking for an NDIS Plan Manager or a self-management app, feel free to reach out to the friendly team at Plan Tracker. You can reach us by phone on 1800-549-670 or email hello@plantracker.com.au. And you're more than welcome as well to jump across and check out our brand new website. It's up and running and good to go. Any device, have a play around. We'd love to hear from you, and we will get the replay out to you as soon as possible tomorrow. And if you've got any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out. Until next time, Elisa, thank you again so much, and to everyone who's joined us live or watching the replay. We hope you found this valuable, and we'll see you on another session sometime soon. All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks, Mel. Thanks, everyone.